Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron LeGrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, welcome back. Now we're going to go to the next lesson in our series of 32 fatal mistakes made by every real estate investor. Number 3, there's no such thing as a free education. I mean, man, when I think back at what my education cost me, I don't even know how to measure it. There's no way I can measure it, but I can tell you it was a lot of money. Because I, like most people, think that I can learn all this stuff for free. Ain't no sense of paying for education. You know, so I can go all over the internet and learn it. Sure you can. And I hope you know better. There's only 2 ways you're going to get one of them educations. From a qualified source that's able to teach it to you, or from the School of Hard Knocks, where you got to learn all this stuff yourself. And by the way, the School of Hard Knocks means you probably will never even get into the business very long. You'll be out of it first time you hit a hurdle if you don't know how to handle the hurdle. You cannot pay someone more, too much for an education if it's a quality education. And of course, the benefit is you got to go out and implement, or it's a worthless expense. And that's the problem. Most people come, they learn, they come to seminar, they go home and do nothing, and blame it all on the seminar. This stuff don't work, or whatever. There's a whole list of excuses people can use not to do anything, but none of them will make them any money. Better be careful whom you listen, because broke people can't help you get rich. They're not qualified, but they all have an opinion. They all have an opinion. Opinion is free. It's worth what it costs. Beware of it. The whole world is full of crap. I got a t-shirt that says that. Don't believe anything you hear until you verify that it's valid. If you want to get your education, get it from the people who have been there and done that, not just one to get on the internet and talk about something they've done once or twice or whatever. Experience cannot be bought. It can only be rented. Putting a video on YouTube does not make you an expert. In fact, sometimes I actually let myself watch those folks. I mean, they're teaching the exact opposite of what reality is. Most of them are just generating leads to sell them something, including me, of course. That's what we do. But then there are qualified teachers, and there are teachers that are not so qualified. And do you really think that a real expert is going to train you for free? Do you really think that? Why would they? Why would you do it if you were that expert? Nobody's going to train you for free on a training that's worth having. And, over the years, a lot of people say, can I come hang around your office for a day? Well, sure you can, but it'll be the most boring day you ever had. All right. The deals don't happen in my office. Okay. Hanging around my office all day just means you got nothing to do all day. And number one, I don't even in my office anymore. I work mostly from home. But when you get to a training, that's a focused training on step-by-steps that you need to do the business. Never going to get that just hanging around somebody and expect them to give you a free education. Don't kid yourself. Education will cost you way, way more than if you paid for it from somebody that's qualified to render it, including us. If you're looking for a sponsor, go to an AA meeting. Just kidding. It takes a village to find, train, and support customers. Have you ever thought about what it costs to have that village? All right. I'm sitting here in my building in Jacksonville, Florida, and there's a studio that I'm from, and there's 2 people in the other room making this thing happen. And I tried to get all of them to work for free, but so far I haven't been successful. And then you got all those other expenses, not just past payroll, which is enormous for us, but all the expenses of doing business, especially the marketing costs, which is really our biggest expense, all the costs of operation. Where is this money going to come from? So if you think somebody's going to train you for free, think again and wake up. That's a naive thought. Would you open a restaurant and give away free food? Same thing, isn't it? If you want a quality education, you got to be willing to spend a little money and time and incur a little debt. But any debt you incur to get trained should quickly be paid off by the checks you get from that training. And if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Getting trained by Hard Knocks, this is true. Cost you at least 100 times more than if you got trained by somebody who was qualified to train you. One mistake could cost you way more than you could pay for any training. One lost deal, which you'll never know you lost. One missing clause in a contract that I've created that makes you tons of money and saves you a lot of grief. One lawsuit. Along the way, we're going to teach you how to make sure that they can't get your stuff even when they know you got your stuff. That's part of our training. But there's a whole lot more ways that your education is going to be way more expensive than you thought it was. No such thing as a free education. Mistake number 4 is improper training. Experience can't be bought; it's got to be rented. If you need surgery, would you prefer a surgeon that's done 3,000 of them, or some kid that just got out of school? I'll take the old guy. I'll always take the old guy. Okay. When I go out and I hire an attorney, I do not want a young attorney. They simply haven't been alive long enough to learn the stuff that the old attorney knows. Why don't I get the education from the old attorney, get the service from the old attorney, and instead of having to pay for the younger attorney's education, my money? There's a reason pilots must accrue thousands of hours in a cockpit before hired by a major airline. Certainly, you don't want to get on an airplane to see a 21-year-old in the cockpit, do you? They just haven't lived long enough to learn the ropes. Can't learn how to run a restaurant by eating there. So true. I've had 6 restaurants, and I just got the idea one day that I wanted a restaurant. So I've been through 6 of them now and never made money on any of them. They all cost me money. But I wouldn't know that sitting out there ordering food. It looks like a good business. The place is full. Looks like it ought to be making a killing. And yeah, well, you get behind the scenes and you'll see how that killing went away with all the cost of operation. My education cost me about $2 million so far in the restaurant business. Mistake number 5, got no system. Well, if you got no system buying and selling houses, it's your fault, because they aren't that complicated. They aren't that hard to get going. We offer everything you need to go through buying and selling houses. You don't have to go out looking for much of anything. I'm going to pound on you to delegate everything you do. Because if you don't, you're never going to get out of your own trap that you built. You're going to be in minutia for your entire life, and it's going to cost you a fortune because you don't have time to think or time to run your business. There's not one thing you do in your business that can't be delegated. I'm a living example of that. I own several businesses. This is all I do. I show up and teach. This is all I do. My house business, I don't hardly do anything except look at a few emails a week and have some discussions with my virtual assistant. And my acquisitionist. I don't make the offers. I don't deal with buyers. I don't deal with sellers. I don't go show houses, and of course, neither do they. We'll talk about that in the selling section. But I've learned to delegate everything, and I hope that I can work on you over time to get in that same mindset, so you quickly figure out that you don't have to do all the work, and you aren't that smart. And I don't care. There's somebody that will do everything you do, and probably some buddies, and many of them are a lot smarter than you are. That's a hard thing for a man to hear, I know. You don't need employees to delegate, and almost everything can be outsourced for a very small amount of money. You shouldn't be taking the inbound calls. You shouldn't be making the outbound calls, except maybe on the closing call after the house has been pre-screened. Our VAs will literally call the sellers and get all the information for you. There's no reason for you to be doing that. And you should only be doing business with people who are predisposed to do business with you. That means they've been somewhat pre-screened before they come into your life. Because if you want to do all that stuff, you really aren't going to have time to do much else. And you're going to lose a fortune trying to save pennies. Look, I got a whole book on that if you want to go to Amazon and get it. It's called The Less I Do, the More I Make. I compare the restaurant business to global publishing to my real estate business in that book. Tell you why all of them need automation. And frankly, if you don't get started on this delegation automation stuff, you're never going to make any real money. You're just going to make a good living. You're never going to make any real money because you can't do all this stuff yourself. You need a village. Here's a task. Are needed to buy a house. Got to generate leads. All right, we have people that'll do that for you, and I can show you a whole bunch of ways you can do it yourself. You can get leads that are free, get leads that are almost free, or you can get leads that cost you a pretty good chunk of change because somebody else is doing all the work for you. The leads have to be called to screen. Our virtual assistants do that. You don't want to do that. The closing call, you do want to do until you replace yourself. I don't do closing calls anymore. I have somebody doing that for me. Go to the house and visit the house. I don't do that anymore. You will in your beginning days, and you will make the closing calls. But after that, you're going to learn to delegate it very shortly down the line, so you don't even have to do that. Then you can spend your time just making decisions. Here's what you can delegate. All right, let's go back to this one. Here's what needs to be done. Generate leads, call the leads, closing call, and then go online, go to the house or look at, you can go online. Today we're all virtual. So if it's not in your city or if the seller's not in your city, then they can send you photos of the inside, and they're probably on Zillow anyway. And then you really should go take a look at the house before you get back with a seller and negotiate the offer on terms anyway, but that's not even true with wholesaling. Jeez, I know people wholesale 1,000 houses a year. Okay, they don't do that by going and looking at 1,000 houses a year, and they do it in multiple cities from their city, and they generally have boots on the ground, one in each city. But even then, all they're doing is putting it under contract online and then putting it out online to sell it and get an assignment. I've had people call me from all over the country trying to buy houses that we put out looking for a wholesale buyer. That's kind of the business today. But forget all of that. That might be the level you want to go to, but let's get you through that first or second or third wholesale deal first. Get some big money in your pocket. So the more you learn to get out of your own way, the easier that'll become. Now take a look at that. Look at those 4 things. Those are the tasks that need to be done. And here's the task that you can delegate. Golly, they're the same task. That's right. You delegate everything. All right. And then all you do is sit around and make decisions. That's the whole game. You sit around and make decisions. And soon you'll delegate that. I do. I delegate that. I mean, I'm ashamed of myself sometimes. I don't have to go to work, but that thought don't last very long. And aren't you trying to get to a point in life where you've got the money in the bank and you've got the residual income coming in, way more than you need to live on, and you don't have to devote your hours to your business? Well, I can honestly tell you from vast experience of doing and training, literally, you could put yourself in that position within a year if you focused on that goal, and maybe even less, some even a lot more. But if you stay focused on the steps you got to do to get there, you can be financially free very, very quickly. And I haven't even talked about your IRA yet, where you can do all these deals in your IRA and never pay income taxes on them. That'll expand your wealth tremendously and your retirement account. No systems means lousy follow-up, which means lost deals and ugly lessons, and you'll never know how much it cost you. Poor follow-up can easily cost you 1,000 times more than the cost of the systems in 1 year. In fact, easily, because your systems are very, very inexpensive. 82% of the deals come from the 2nd through the 7th contact with a seller. Now, that just doesn't apply to real estate. That applies to about anything that people are out there selling. They have contact with. All sellers need time and circumstances to make a decision. Some buyers need time and circumstances to make a decision. So if you're a one-hit wonder and you only contact them once, you're going to lose a lot of deals. Somebody else will get them when the time is right for them to act. Got to have the follow-up. And here's how you can fix that lousy follow-up. You can fix it by not having to do it. Inbound calls are taken from a company called Pat Live. They take calls 24 hours a day. You might want to write that down now because they're cheap. They'll take all your calls for a couple $100 a month, for crying out loud, from both buyers and sellers. LeGrand.com/Pat Live. Been using them for over 20 years. And they'll set you up. The scripts are already there. You don't have to create anything. You just have to set them up when you're ready to actually have calls coming in. And then your outbound calls are done by our virtual assistants and all that other grunt work as well. And go to ronsva.com. You'll learn all about that. They're very inexpensive. You can pay for them as you need them. And they'll do a list of stuff this long. Not only do they call all your leads for you and fill out a property information sheet, but they will also monitor your website for you. They create flyers when you get ready to sell a house. They do all kinds of stuff for you. So at least investigate it. Go to ronsva.com and you can investigate it there. And then we have a system called the REI Black Book Dreams Edition, which basically it is your CRM. It basically replaces an employee. And the good news is it does all the work for you. So once you enter the property into the system, which your virtual assistant does for you, you set it up. We got the marketing tools in there, and you set it up on how you want to follow up. You don't even have to write the emails. You can if you want. But what it does is it notifies this seller that you haven't done business with yet, that you're still out here and you still like to talk for however many months you tell it to go out. And what that means is you can set it and forget it. You don't have to remember anything with follow-up. It follows up for you automatically, for crying out loud, once you tell it what to do. And your VA does all of that, handles all that for you. So I don't know how much more systemized you can get than what we're doing today. So reiblackbook.com/dreams. Just write that down and go check it out yourself, because it would take me an hour. It'd take me a day to tell you everything this thing will do for you to make your life easy. And it's all set up, coupled with Planet Ron. So the tools that we teach are built right into that system. ronsva.com is for our virtual assistants. All right. Get that one, reiblackbook.com/dreams, and take a look at what they offer. Go to ronsva.com and you'll see that our VAs are very inexpensive and all the stuff they'll do for you. If you rely on your memory, you never know what it'll cost you. If you're relying on your memory, I promise you your business sucks, because you're not keeping your promises because you forgot them. You're not holding other people accountable because you forgot about it. You're not getting the task done because you don't have any system to tell you when that task is due. That's all in dreams, by the way. And you're walking around like a zombie day in and day out, looking for the next fire to put out and the next calamity to hit, because you have no organization about it yourself. Well, frankly, that's so easy to fix. All right, just set these systems up. No, never mind. Don't you set them up. You let our VA set them up for you. All right, because they're trained to do it. And automate or die. You're going to have a very miserable time building any kind of a sizable business in real estate or anything else if you don't get automated, especially today with this AI stuff. Holy moly. We don't get involved with this AI stuff, you're going to be left behind very, very, very quickly. And it's all incorporated into what we do for you as well. And we're learning more about it day after day after day. All right, let's go to selling houses. Okay. Selling houses. Here's the value of your automation. Okay. Generate leads. Leads are generated automatically after you implement a few things to get buyers calling you. And when you are lease optioning houses, trust me, you're going to get a lot more calls than you want. And a lot of them are just junk calls, so you don't even want to take those calls. Let Pat Live do it for you. And then they will immediately send that information to you by text and or email. And then you'll decide, based on what that buyer has told Pat Live, whether you want to even contact the buyer or not. 2 questions that Pat Live asked them is, what's the most you can put down and what's the most you can pay per month? You need the answers to those 2 questions before you even care about calling that potential buyer. So they're automatically screened for money and income because there's a system there. That system involves a live human being and the technology behind that to support it. And we don't show houses. I quit showing houses, I don't even know how many years ago, but that's the last thing I'm going to do is go riding around all across town to meet somebody in a house, and I don't even know if they could qualify to get in it. In that case, how much money they got, and would I lease option it to them even if they wanted the house? I want to know that before they even go to the house. So we don't meet people at the houses. We give them a lockbox code, let them go in, and let them call us back immediately if they're interested, and then we get information on them to determine whether we want to go any further or not. And By doing that, if they don't have anything to work with, they want to buy a $300,000 house and they got $2,000 to put down, they're not my huckleberry, okay? They're not going to get in that house, so I have no reason to give them a lockbox code. Therefore, very few people are going to go through your house because I'm not going to give them the code to get in my house until I know they got enough money to make me at least let them in and want to know more. All a system, folks, not like it used to be. Back in the day, I was taking calls all day and half the night from people who want to buy houses. They all ask the same questions. And finally, I said, why don't I just let them call? I didn't even have live answering back then. We did it with an answering machine, which is where I learned that we lose a lot of houses by driving them to an answering machine and not by having a live person answer the telephone. So we screen them first. We screen our sellers, we screen our buyers, and if you don't have a system, it's going to cost you a lot of money. To screen the tenant, we use screenthetenant.com, but we don't need to have the tenant checked out till we know we want the tenant because they got enough money to satisfy us and they've seen the house. So we're never going to meet this tenant until they've seen the house and we like the information that we have. And I'm not going to like the information that I have until Screen the Tenant screens them and sends it back to me for a lousy $50. I learn everything I want to know about that couple. And then and only then do we have a meeting. And that's another lesson altogether, is what happens at that meeting before I accept them and send it to the attorney to do the simple paperwork. So our next step is, after we decide we want them, we get their deposit, and we send it over to the attorney to create simple documents, and they can be literally in the house 3 days later. And today, it's all virtual. You don't need to leave your house to close. You don't need to leave your house to show a house. You do need to leave your house to go out and look at the house if the lender lives, if the seller lives in that house. Pretty soon you can train somebody to do that for you. It's all virtual today. And when I think about it, looking back, it's been virtual for years and years and years because we always close virtually. You don't go into a closing room anymore. It's all done online. And I've been doing that for an awful long time. So the only thing that I wasn't doing virtual was actually going out and look at the houses. And we can even do that virtual now if we want to. So we're in a virtual world. When I cash out, I list it with a realtor. Now I know you might be thinking, man, I bought this house, I rehabbed this house, I've done all of this work, I'm going to sell it myself and save 6%. Well, okay, go ahead and do that 3 or 4 times. And it'll always be in the back of your head. Ron said to list it with a realtor. I think I'm learning why now. There's a lot of work goes into selling a house to a qualified buyer. You got to talk to a lot of people that are never going to qualify. Then you got to get them to a loan processor. Then you got to help them get the documents. Then you got to get them to the closing table. And this is going to take months. It's going to take months. And not only is it going to take months, you're doing something you're not really trained to do. So what if we decide that we're going to let people do what they do best and get out of the way and let them do it? Now, there's a thought. But Ron, it's 6%. Yes, but what you haven't learned yet is that I'm going to raise the price on my house at least 6%, usually around 10% when I put it on the market. Okay, and that's even if I'm cashing out of it. So I'm likely getting the money to pay the realtor to have some left over. And even if I'm not, I am thrilled to give up 6% and not have anything to do with the entire sales process. List the house, wait for contract. That's all I have to do with the sales process. And not only that, it's going to get sold a lot faster because the realtors have the pent-up demand. They have the list of the buyers. They know how to qualify them. They know how to keep from wasting time with them. And they're in this business. It's what they do day in and day out. I'm going to let them sell them. I'll make my money buying them. I'll get my money when they sell it. And that's only if I'm rehabbing it and cashing out of it. If you spend more than 5 to 10 hours a week, you're wasting most of your time because you're doing all the crap you shouldn't be doing, most of which is never going to make you a cent. Minutia kills dreams. Systems kills minutia. The less I do, the more I make. Get the book. Mistake number 6, no checklists. Well, can't have systems without checklists because checklists replace memory. We got all kinds of checklists, both for buying and for selling. They look like this. By the way, you can get these at ronsgoldclub.com. I don't care how you buy it. There's a checklist of things that need to be done and another things of forms that need to be in your file folder. And so if I sell it, different checklist. So no matter how I buy it or no matter how I sell it, I got checklists to make sure I don't forget anything. You know, kind of like I'm paying cash for a house and I forget to insure it. If that's true, when do you think it'll burn down? That night. That night, because you forgot to insure it. Okay. I have checklists of checklists. I really do. Each of my classic cars has a list of items to fix and another item to order. That's true. When I buy a car, I'm gonna work on them. I have a garage behind my house, and when I get that car, I go right on through it and I list the things that we need to get fixed, and then I list the parts that we need to get ordered. And I love dealing in classic cars. I don't have to do anything anymore. So this is what I do when I don't have any other things to do. And I've done quite a few of them here last couple of years. And most of these are sold right now. Let's see. The pink and white one up in the left-hand corner, I still have. All the rest of those are sold. And this batch, I still have that 85 Lincoln Town Car there, and I still have that 67 Lincoln Continental convertible, and that's my baby right now. That's one beautiful car. Spent a year and a half either working on it or putting it in other people's garages to get it fixed, but I'm getting very close. It's almost done. That's the same kind of car that Kennedy got shot in, so my wife made me promise her that I wouldn't sit in the back seat. Just kidding. All right. Mistake number 7, no time management skills. You can't really have time management skills unless you get a system that allows you to set it and forget it and learn that you don't have a memory and you can't rely on it. And you've got to learn how to get to the point to where you don't have to have that memory. You got a chance to do a full-time income here with a part-time business. But if you don't take care of the tasks that need to be taken care of because you forgot them or didn't get around to them or whatever, I mean, it can only lead to bad things. It's easy to waste time doing worthless tasks. They never end and everybody does them. Everybody does them. Because you get trained and you leave and you start doing all the junk. For example, looking all over the internet for everything you can look at, looking at all the houses that you're never going to buy. There's so many things that you can do to take up your time, but there's only a few things you need to do to make sure you get deals and checks in the bank. And we got to stay focused on those few things. And none of that crap produces revenue. It's just wasting time. Going around looking at houses, driving all over town on houses that we're not going to buy, going out to visit houses that haven't been pre-screened. Big, huge time wasters. You have no system. Ideas and tasks that must be recorded instantly or they'll float away like a fart in the wind. Look, this is your cell phone if you got an Apple. If you don't, you got another one. See that circle there? Okay, see, I got one right here. There it is. I got the same cell phone. See that circle? That is your reminder button. Now, you don't even need that reminder button, but if you want to punch on that, you don't need to punch on that app because you can tell Google or Siri to remind you. All right. Now watch this. It's so simple. This is probably the best time-saving device ever created right here, and most people don't have a clue how to even use it. So I'll give you one cool thing right now. All right. Let's say, I don't know. Let's say I wanted to get on an airplane on 1st of February. In fact, we're going to get on an airplane and fly to Vegas on the 19th of February for our 4-day event there this year. Let's say I hadn't booked the airfare yet. Okay. Watch how easy I do that. Now, if I was going to go to Vegas and I was going to book the airfare, I'd do it right now as far out as I can. So let's say today is Friday and I don't want to mess with it, but I can book them tomorrow. Watch how easy this is. Hey, Siri, remind me at 10 a.m. tomorrow to book an airfare to Vegas.
Okay, I added it.
Okay, that was hard work there, wasn't it? See, I can do that going down the street. Thank you, Siri. So now, what do you think is going to happen at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning? It's going to pop up and say, book airfare to Vegas. That's simple. I've just said it, and now I can forget it. And when it pops up tomorrow morning, I can't get rid of it until I intentionally make it go away, because it's going to follow me every single day until I get rid of it. In other words, it forces you to get the task done. Little simple thing like that. And I don't even run into people who know how to do that. Very rarely. I teach it in my classes. Most of them don't even know how to do that. And that alone will save you a ton of deals and a ton of promises broken. So we got to learn this time management stuff and the systemization stuff, or we're going to pay dearly. Once tasks are recorded, then they must be converted to your daily task list, checklist. Okay, well, I just did that. I did that just using my phone. Now I've got a planner. I got a planner. It looks like this, and I used the planner. But to be honest with you, the daily checklist, the 1 through 31s, are here in my planner. But if I get it in here, then I know that day I got to do it. But if I put it in my phone, I know the same thing. So I got two different ways that I can make that happen. But if it isn't written down, it's not going to happen. You're not going to remember it. So it's either written in my planner or it's put on the phone. And then when I put it in my phone, I transfer it to the planner if I'm not going to do it immediately. In other words, set it and forget it. So the best cure for minutia is delegation. Now, that's not going to be easy if you spend your whole life doing everything yourself, and that's the mindset you're in. But you just got to do it one little step at a time. Now, we can furnish you delegation for most of the stuff that you need to do, but not all of it. I can't furnish you somebody that's going to go out to a house and put a lockbox on it where you live. And I can't furnish you somebody that's going to mow the grass when your houses need mowed. You have to handle that on your own. But all those little tasks, we got everything done for you. You don't have to go out and find anything new. And you should ask yourself, should I be doing this? And guess what the answer is almost always going to be. All right. So put my pretty face up there in front of you. What would Ron do? WWRD. Keep asking yourself, would Ron be doing this? Well, no. Well, then who should I delegate it to? Who can I delegate it to? Look, there's all kinds of places that you can go to get stuff done. In fact, you'd be surprised what these people will do for the little pathetic amount of money they charge. RVAs will do most of the stuff you need in real estate, combined with Pat Live to take your calls. We got all kinds of companies that'll generate leads for you. You just outsource them. They don't work for us. We don't own Pat Live. It's just people that we run across. And then there's sites like Upwork and Fiverr.com. You can get about just about anything you want done that they can do online for you for unbelievable cheap prices. So there's always places you can delegate to. Keep at it until the list for you to do will fit on a postage stamp, which means almost nothing. The richest people in the world have the same amount of hours in every day as we do. Swapping a small amount of your money for other people's time can make you rich. Show me one wealthy person that doesn't have a village to do all of the stuff that they want to done. Number 8, focus on revenue, not cost control. Get the revenue up, the cost control won't matter much. Didn't say ignore the cost control, but most people spend more time on the cost control than they do the revenue. So if your main concern is the cost of delegation, you will always be walking over the dollars to get to the dime, because you want to do this stuff yourself instead of focusing on making the money. Focus on the revenue, not the cost control. So when your front end profits on easy deals are between $20,000 and $100,000, do you really care how much this stuff costs? It's insignificant. Okay, I had at my last restaurant, it cost me $100,000 a year. A month. Sorry, $100,000 a month just for operating costs. It means I had to make $100,000 a month in gross revenue before I ever made a nickel. And there's a lot of months I didn't gross $100,000. Compared to this business, you got to be kidding. These are very, very inexpensive cost of running your operation here. This is a high transaction business with minimal overhead, little or no risk if you do it properly. strong cash flow, and wealth generation, all built into one package. Money today, money monthly, money later, growing wealth, saving on taxes. And again, go by a restaurant and you'll see what a real business is like. Would you spend $2,000 to get a deal that makes you $20,000 in 15 to 30 days? Well, you probably won't have to, but isn't it fair to assume that most people will spend more time focusing on the 2,000 than they do on the 20,000? It's easy to understand why, because the 20,000 ain't in your bank, and yet you're spending the 2,000. So show me a business where I don't have to spend money to get money. Okay, even wholesaling houses, I got to spend a little money. I got to do something to get leads, and I got to put up a $10 deposit. Okay, that's all I'm doing. I'm not spending any dime after that. even putting it on the web, we put it on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, and that's all we need to do. And that's assuming somebody in our buyers list don't want it, because they usually do. We get a house under contract, we email it to our buyers list, and one of them comes through almost always and buys it. We don't even have to put it out on the open market. And I don't want to mess with a house for less than 20 grand, even a wholesale deal. Well, that's all for this lesson. So make sure you stay tuned for the next lesson coming up soon.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.